We made it! We did it! It's official. I ran London Marathon. Here it is. Do you like it? I did it all for you, didn't I? No, you can't have the mic. Right, welcome to today's YouTube. And after we've taken you along on looking at the race and experiencing the actual race day with me, I thought it was about time I debriefed you on what actually happened on the day. And it's safe to say it was quite the day. It's really not what I expected to happen. And that's what I'm going to take you through today, kind of how I felt going into race day, what happened during the race itself, and how I'm feeling post-race as well. And maybe a little sneaky chat about what maybe might be next. Although I can't tell you too much for now. But before we get started, today's video is sponsored by the amazing Coros. I was wearing their Pace Pro, their heart rate monitor, and their pod on my shoe at the weekend when I ran London Marathon. And I'm going to pull in lots of my stats from the Performance Hub today and explain to you why all the data that Coros saves for me is so important when it comes to working out my strategy for race day and also how I worked through race day as well. So as you'll have seen from the last, I don't even know how many weeks of London Marathon training vlogs, the build-up went really, really well. I had a great block. I really enjoyed all the tougher sessions that I would normally be freaking out about and worrying about. I actually just loved it and enjoyed it. I had a few weeks where things got really tough. My endometriosis flared up and I had to really keep my head in check at those points, but I didn't miss a single run. I think I missed one strength training session in the entire block, which was because of fatigue, and we decided to pull things together into one session that week instead. But overall, I had on paper the dream training block, if I'm honest. Nothing felt incredible. It didn't feel like we were doing completely out of the box things. It just felt like day to day we were ticking off the training. And I'd say the key moment where I really sat there and thought I might be able to do something special at London Marathon was when I ran Dorney Lake Half during my 22-mile long run and somehow pulled out a 1:24 PB. So that was probably the key moment for me when I realized that I think things might go well. If possible, they might go okay. And my Coros was kind of agreeing with me. Just before we went into race day, it was putting me right in the performance zone, telling me that my intensity was down, but my fitness was there and ready to race, essentially. And I'm not going to lie, my race predictor was pretty much bang on. So my race predictor had my running fitness at 96.4 and predicted me a 2:53 marathon. Now, we all know that in a marathon, you run slightly further than the marathon distance because of the weaving in and out as you're going, especially with London being such a busy course as well. So this was really, really great for me to think, you know what, with a bit of weaving added on and a bit of anxiety on the day, 2:54 maybe sounds achievable. So they were really useful stats that were pulled out in the build up for me to think, come race day, I might be able to do this. So I'd say we went into race day feeling really, really positive. I had some anxiety, but in the week building up, I had a very much what will be attitude. And it was in the week building up where the weather forecast started creeping and creeping and creeping. And I started panicking and panicking and panicking and realizing that I can't do anything about it. So I decided, ignore the weather forecast. We're going to decide what the plan is for the day, and what will be, will be. And that brings us on to what was the plan of action for the day? So I spoke to my wonderful coach, Clarky. Can we put a little picture of Clarky in here? little picture of Dad over here. Not actually my dad, just for clarity. We just call him Dad. I spoke to Clarky a few days before, and I think I'd kind of written my own race plan that he agreed with, if I'm honest, which was we were going to aim for the 2:55, pretty much flat, aim to go through halfway in 1:27:30, and then aim to go through the second half a little bit quicker if I had anything to pick up. Now, I did have slight worry about the weather at this point, I'm not going to lie. And I historically have not raced well in heat. I found Cambridge really difficult, but looking back, I don't think I was too well either when I raced Cambridge. But in the past, I've really struggled racing in hot conditions. But I decided this time was going to be different, basically, and I wasn't going to let the heat phase me. So the plan of action was to go to halfway in 1:27:30. If at halfway I felt like it was silly, I felt like the heat was too much, and I felt like it was a risk for me to carry on at that pace, then the plan was to back off, run to feel for the second half, and just enjoy it. And I was totally at peace with that. I trained as hard as I could, but you get what you're given on race day. So that was pretty much the plan of action. And that should have been somewhere between kind of 6:35 minute per mile and 6:40 minute per mile was the plan of action. Spoiler alert, I think we did that. Next section. Next slide, please. So the race itself, and I feel like there's so much to break down in this, and I don't want to sit here for half an hour rambling on at you because you're probably like, it's just a marathon, Lily. But I can honestly say, hand on heart, this was not just a marathon to me. This race was exactly what I dreamt of it being. And there's so many people out there who won't have had that experience running London this year, but I didn't have that experience the last 2 times I ran London. And I think that's also why it made this so special as well. So without further ado, let's take a look at how batshit crazy I was whilst running London Marathon 2025. Having a successful day at London Marathon meant setting myself up for success as well. So we started off by making sure we got the right equipment and setup for the day. So I obviously had my Coros Pace Pro, and the data screen that I had set up and was mainly using throughout the whole race was my lap distance, my current pace, my lap pace, and my lap time. I then also had the overall distance so far, as well as my current pace, lap pace, and overall activity time as well. And they were the 2 screens that I was kind of flicking between. I was also using this lovely little nugget here, the Coros Pod on my shoe. And this is such a useful tool. It just makes your GPS so much more accurate. And in areas like Canary Wharf as well, it was just really helpful to know that what my watch was telling me was actually the truth and not my GPS bumping off a skyscraper and telling me I was running at 10-minute miling when I wasn't. So getting myself set up for success was really important. And we'd also been able to see from the Coros Performance Hub that I was on track. My fitness was up, my performance was up, and all the stats were telling us was that if I could pull it together, I was going to have a good day. So I was stood on the start line feeling pretty confident. I was happy with the training, and before I knew it, it was time to go. And in classic fashion of London Marathon, I went through the first 5K far too quickly. Now, it's basically the one thing I told myself not to do. However, it's downhill, and I did do it. So I went through the first 5K at 6:32 pace. That's 20 minutes and 19 seconds. A little bit too fast. We were aiming for maybe like 20 seconds slower than that, if not a bit more. Whoops. But I basically told myself, you need to now keep a lid on it, Lily. And 2 years ago, going through that first 5K too fast would have absolutely sent me and completely panicked me. But I kept calm, kept cool by making sure I took on lots of water, made sure my first gel went in, and carried on, basically. Knowing that I got around Cutty Sark, things were going to be really exciting, so there was going to be lots of people cheering there, and kind of pressed on to around 11 miles where I knew my first bunch of friends were. And at that point was averaging Through 10K, I averaged 6:36 minute per mile, and up to 15K, I averaged 6:38 minute per mile. So started to control things a lot more and be more in the remit of what we wanted. Going through mile 11, where my friends were, was absolutely fantastic because they were exactly where they were 2 years ago when I was having a breakdown crying. And this time, I was not having a breakdown and crying. I was basically just telling myself to keep it controlled, keep it calm, and had a massive smile on my face. And it was just so nice to feel that way. It was the biggest thing for me. Then we pushed on, and I knew that the next thing that I was going to get excited about was Tower Bridge. So I went through 20K at, again, about 6:37 minute per miling. So really staying in that 6:35 to 6:40 bracket now. I saw some of the amazing sports shoes team on Tower Bridge, which was lovely. And then arrived at halfway, slightly quicker than anticipated. Oops, whoopsie. If my coach is watching, I'm sorry. I did my best. But we arrived at halfway at 1:26:49. Now I know what you're thinking. That's not 1:27:30, Lily. And I was thinking exactly the same thing. I was thinking that's 41 seconds too quick. And that had every reason to send me into a complete tears. That's exactly what happened 2 years ago, and I didn't want to let it happen. So I kept a lid on it and actually tried to put a positive spin on it. And that positive spin was, this temperature is cranking up at this point. You've got here feeling good. You've kept yourself cool. You've doused yourself in plenty of water. You've got yourself to halfway. You might need those 40 seconds in this second half. Don't panic about them. It's not like you've gone through 2 minutes too quickly. You may come to really need those seconds. So I just thought, keep it controlled now going into the second half, and don't panic about that extra time. I felt really strong. Everything felt really, really good at that point. Spoiler alert, if you haven't run the London Marathon before, Canary Wharf is where it gets tough. Really tough. And that was no different this time. I entered Canary Wharf and just immediately thought, why on earth did I sign up for this in the first place? Help me. Honestly, I don't know why it's so bad. I don't know if it's the weaving. I don't know if it's just that you feel like you're tiny around all these buildings. I don't know what it is. But I got to about mile 15 and my legs just went, what on earth are we doing? And at that point, my priority completely shifted. My priority shifted to making sure that I kept myself cool, making sure that I went through every water station, even if I lost time. I was drinking like half the bottle, throwing the rest of the bottle over my head, down my back. And at that point, there was also ice on offer as well at the Lucasade stations. So I was taking cups of ice and I tucked my vest into my shorts, which actually proved really, really useful because I was opening up the back of my vest, pouring ice down and just letting it melt down my back whilst I was running. And I honestly think that helped to keep my temperature regulated so much. Going through Canary Wharf, I basically decided to tune out from my watch and really run on feel, just because my legs had started to say, nah, honey, which may have also been down to the fact that I missed my gel at 1 hour 30 because I was too busy shouting back at my friends. Whoopsies. But I did take it about 3 minutes late. So I think that just took a little bit longer to kick in than I expected as well. But Canary Wharf, I really focused on just running to feel, remaining confident. I didn't check my watch every mile, but when it was pinging me up alerts, because I was using the pod, that meant that I knew the mileage, the per mile time that it was giving me was right. And we came out of Canary Wharf having pretty much maintained 6:37, 6:38 pace. So we were still on track here. And I think in my head, I thought I wasn't, but the maths was mathing. The maths was telling me that 2:55 was still going to be in sight. So we cracked on. And for me, the next mental place to get to at London Marathon is Run Dem Crew. At mile 21 and a half, you just know that there's going to be amazing vibes. I knew, again, quite a few friends would be there, and it would just really put a smile on my face to get through. So again, carried on. Honestly, at this point, I was running through every water sprinkler that was available. I can't talk about the levels of chafe. And if you're a girl, you know where we're chafing. It was not a nice experience. A lot of Sudocreme has been used this week, but the water showers were worth it. The water showers were worth it. Carried on with the ice, carried on throwing water over the top of my head as I went. And then we hit embankment. And I'm not going to lie, that is when I felt like I was running in a furnace. And it was really quite a scary experience. There were a lot of people who were overheating. And at that point, it really became, Lily, is this a good idea to carry on running at this pace? I've never had that feeling before where I really thought my legs were going to give way under me. And I genuinely thought at one point that they were just about to buckle, but they didn't. But I said to myself, go mile by mile, half mile by half mile. If at any point this seems silly, we're going to back off. We're going to enjoy these last few miles. But right now, you're still there. You could still make this. Let's go. And all the way down embankment, honestly, was just absolutely mind-blowing. Like, I don't think there was 15 seconds where someone wasn't screaming my name, if I'm really honest. And that was just the most incredible feeling. And if that was one of you, thank you. You're the reason that I got to the end. And spoiler alert, have this medal. But we got there. I knew I had friends at mile 24, mile 25, and mile 26. So it was just go, go, go at that point. Head down, run, smile as much as I could to try and take the pain away. And I honestly thought the whole thing was so borderline. I thought it was going to be more like 255, 256 than anything else. But it was when I got onto Birdcage Walk that I kind of clocked my watch, clocked all my screens, and went, I actually think you might be able to do this, honey. And just put my foot down and went as quick as I could. And at that point, that was 6:40 pace. So it dropped to the lower end of the bracket that I'd set myself. But I knew if I could just carry on at that 6:40 pace, that I was hopefully going to make it. And I reached the sign of a third of a mile to go. And I knew with a kick that I could get there. It was just whether I had that kick still. And looking at my last half mile, I actually lowered it down to 6:27 per mile pace. So clearly I did have a little something left in the tank, but it really didn't feel like it. I felt really nauseous at that point. I had managed to take on a gel 160 every half an hour, which was the plan, but I just felt really, really nauseous at that point. But we kicked it on down, we crossed the line, and that was 2:54:53. By the absolute skin of my teeth, I ran the sub 2:55, and I honestly have no idea how I did that on the day that was dealt, but I could not be more proud of it. I could not be more thankful for the amazing things I had on my person that allowed me to do that with so much confidence of knowing that all the timing data that I was getting back was correct, and just having the confidence from training that I thought I was fit, but so did the tech as well. And so did all the data that we were pulling back from it. And yeah, that is London Marathon 2025. So without further ado, what's next? Next slide, please. So I did it, and I'm honestly still baffled. I'm really, really proud of myself. And I don't think I just overcame London Marathon and the fear of London Marathon that I had when I ran. I think I also overcame a big fear that I have of running in difficult conditions as well. And I'm not saying that every time it's hot now, I'm going to run well, but it has made me feel a bit braver about being able to do sessions outside in heat and race when it's a bit hotter, like in summer, which might be what's happening next. So what is next? I mean, my last goal of running sub 3 took me 2 years to do. My goal of running sub 2:55 has taken me 6 months from when I set that goal, which is just insane. So I didn't really expect to be having to think about what's next. But I can say that there will be an autumn marathon, and there will also be a spring marathon next year. I just booked an Airbnb this morning, but we're going to hold on a little bit before we tell you what that is. And I've not quite decided what my plans are over summer yet either. But what I do know is that over summer, I will probably be coming down to some shorter stuff, running a little bit faster, trying to get a little bit more speed in the bank before I go back to marathon training again at the end of June, beginning of July. You can probably work out what marathon I'm running if I've just told you that information. Do you know? You're not coming. I'm sorry. And that's it. I just want to say the biggest thank you for coming along with me on what has been an incredible journey over the last, I don't even know how many weeks we're on now when you guys watch this. I think it'll be about 18 weeks since we started making these YouTube videos. And we started off with big fat nil subscribers. And now there's over 1,000 of you. And that just blows my little mind. We're monetized. Ben, you might get an e-bike soon. Maybe. What are you thinking? Hope so. Yeah. What budget do we need? We'll come back to these conversations. Keep watching to find out if Ben gets his e-bike. But I just wanted to say again, the biggest thank you. And I hope I did you all proud. That's it. 254.53. You're welcome.